yeah, a 24/7 trade everything. Ryan, in this video, I need you go ahead, find trade for a new 25/24/7 account, motherfucker. Get going, huh?
All right. No problem, Oleg. I will get to work. We will take our first trade in this new 24/7, what is it, Tradify 24/7 account. We got our $10,000 up there. Hop over to TradingView right up here on the screen. And I've got what indicator we got? We'll use Bull Busters today. So you see up here, Bull Busters. Basically, it's two Bollinger Bands. When they get separated, it starts to create these boners up here pointing in a specific direction. So I have an alert set up for a group of pairs of coins, the whole list of coins in Tradify 24/7 on a watch list. So you can see that right here. And then I have an alert set up that says, hey, whenever the Bull Busters indicator fires, let me know. So you can see here every few minutes we're getting another alert. So the latest one was on render. We've got a nice dip coming down into a support area. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just wait for this to start turning around before I get into trade, but I don't want to make you guys wait. Let's see what else we got here. STX. Yeah, it's about the same. So we're getting a little bit of a dip. Let's just have a little bit of fun. We'll start very small on render. So hopping back in here, I'm going to go and find that symbol, render. Look it up. There we go. We'll get the chart in our 24/7 Tradify 24/7 account. And then what we will do is we will take a small trade. So what is this, $1.47? If I do 100 of those, I will use about $147 in margin, less the, shoot, I have to sign the little contract that they do in here first. And now the trade should be allowed. So let's try 100, click buy. Yep, it worked. And how much margin did we use? We used $71 instead of 147 because we are at 2x leverage on this particular pair. So when trading so many different pairs, randomly, as these alerts pop up, kind of just do the math in your head. That's a really small position. We're not going to see a lot of movement, especially on a Friday night like this, where not a lot's happening. So if we want a little more excitement, we come back here. Maybe I add 1,900 more, and we'll see our margin used number up here is 1436 of our 10,000. So now we'll start to see a little bit of action on the trade, and we can start to scale in as it moves against us, which is the idea here with this Bull Busters indicator, Oleg. So you can see what we're doing. We'll talk about that a little bit here. I've got a 21 Bollinger with a 1 standard deviation and a 233. And what we're doing is when we get separation between the two, you can see this sort of highlighted background here. It's letting us know that there's separation between the two. And this is generally a pretty good indication of, oversold, overbought, depending on where it's separating. And then I also layer in a VWAP threshold where it needs to be under 1.5 away to kind of double that. And then we will show repeat alerts every X bars, just so we know how deep and for how long it has been going on. So I'm trying to find one that has multiple boners showing up here. So you see the arrow, the 2 dots and the arrow up, that's a boner. You can see this one's gone on for 5 bars longer than the initial alert. So a lot of times we'll see, 50, 60 times it's been down there. You've got a really extended downtrend, and it's pretty reliable that it's going to come back for you your way. So what are we looking at here? We are in render. Let's add another one. We've got OP right here. That's Optimism. Wow, Optimism's still around. Okay. It's an old crypto. Well, at least going back, was it 5 years at least, maybe longer. So again, seems like everything's dipping right now. But I like Optimism down here too. We're starting to get a white Heiken Ashi indicating some kind of a little bit of a short-term turnaround. We're still down $1.33 on our render right there. So let's go find OP. Where are you at? So there's Optimism. A lot of times these things will all dip at the same time, but I get to a few different ones just for fun here. So this is 8 cents. If I do 1,000, it's $80. So let's do 10,000 of these. It'll probably use up another $400 in margin right there. I think that math was kind of right. And of course you can do the math actually before you get in, but I'm just eyeballing this in general, not just for entertainment's sake, just as I trade and as Oleg, the way Oleg taught me was just wing it, man, So he was like,
go ahead, just wing the fucking trade.
So I just do it, So so we're down 10 cents on this one. We're down $1.33 on this one. Again, Friday night, very slow. But setting these alerts on the watch list right here, so you can see Tradeify Crypto, and I can do add alert on the list like so. This allows me to just pretty much find my setup across a whole bunch of pairs. And what I like about Tradeify 24/7, it used to be called Tradeify Crypto, that's why I keep saying that, but Tradeify 24/7 is that you can trade about 100 crypto pairs and roughly 20 tokenized stocks. So there's always something to be done 24/7, some fun to be had, and you can also trade very, very small. So if you're used to trading, futures, for example, with prop firms, you're kind of using a ton of leverage there, and you're locked into whatever the smallest size is. Even one MYM or one MNQ can still be really big and move really fast against you. Here, you can take very tiny positions just to get your practice in with Tradeify 24/7, and you can scale in, scale out. There's not a lot of rules around that stuff. So the OP trade is up $1.20 right here. You see it's going our direction, and then render isn't really having a pulse right now. So let's just wait on that one. And then we're up $1.20 here on OP. Let's find one more trade just for fun, just to get a little bit more going on. Let's see if we've gotten any more alerts. OP was still the last one. Let's see what the last alert was in a tokenized stock. So it was NVIDIA about not too long ago, about 15 minutes ago. And you see what it did here, right? We got a good signal here. We would have made a little bit, and then here the trade is actually already played out and it's back to VWAP. So I don't want to touch that right now, of course. So that's that. This is kind of an illustration of how you can find trades 24/7 with Tradeify 24/7 using any setup you want. I'm just using this custom indicator that I built myself called Bullbusters for this Bollinger setup. But whatever your setup is, if you have a lot of different pairs to trade, you can get really strict criteria going. You could even just set up RSI on the default settings and just say, hey, when it gets under 10, let me know. And you might have one or two of these doing that at any given time. Of course, you want to layer in multiple confluences, and you'll get into building your own indicators that do that, or use other people's indicators, or use ours if you want. Bullbusters, let me know. And you just pick and you just get alerted all day in TradingView of what's good, and you always have something fun to do. A lot of fun. So I'm up $1.15 OP. Remember, that didn't use a lot of margin, so I can just close that out there with my $1.50 and then keep watching our render trade, which isn't really moving much yet, but it is starting to turn here, which looks good. So I'll wrap up the video here, just showing off Tradeify 24/7 a little bit and how I'm approaching trading with it. It's kind of not the I haven't taken a payout from them yet, but the last few weeks I've been playing with it and really like it. I actually blew up an account the other day because I went a little heavy on the mental math on the margins. Oleg told me to do it. It was silly, but NVIDIA had earnings and they dipped, and then I went really big size. I usually go really small size, but I went too big on the size because I did the math wrong on the margin somehow, and then it just dipped like another 1% in a minute and blew the whole account. You can only lose like $300 in a day. So I give myself a little pass on that one because it doesn't happen that often that way. But definitely check out Tradeify 24/7. And if you need access to the indicator that I'm using or have any questions about this, just comment down below.